All right. Good morning, Marty.
Good morning, Ab. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. We are absent a dear friend.
Mhm.
Um, Poor Steve couldn't be here today. Wild
Yeah.
horses wouldn't keep him away, and unfortunately, it was wild horses that have kept him away today.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Steve, we
so
miss you.
we miss you if you're watching, and I hope that I can live up to the standard that Steve has set for these conversations.
I'm sure you can.
Well, we're talking about manifestation, and to me, this is like the core of the new age movement from the last 20 years.
Mhm.
Certainly,
Mhm.
as much as my journey has showed me, and the various kind of um, people that have come on the stage and talked about this. But we started talking about this last time 2 weeks ago, part one, and this is a four-part conversation. And I have to say, already it's really mind boggling because it looks at it from a different perspective,
Mhm.
but a more natural perspective. It's not a push. So
Yeah.
maybe for our listeners who maybe didn't hear last week, or just a recap,
Yeah.
what was step one
Mhm.
of this? And then do you want to introduce what we're step two, like where we're going today?
Yeah, absolutely. And interrupt me as questions come up. So we we touched on this principle of manifestation, and it's really important in the world today because, well, I hardly need to say this to our listeners. We've got to go out and create stuff, right? We have to create stuff for the clients, services, products, et cetera, et cetera. And we already live in a culture that is kind of nervous about being creative. Raise your hand if you have never felt doubtful about your creative self. No hands will go up. Um, and we have some very kind of linear, rigid ideas about what it is to manifest something. And as Ab just touched on, we usually push at it. I have to get this done by this date or else, and here are my milestones and my deadline. And I hope I'm not dead by the time I reach the deadline, and that sort of stuff. So we want to just completely remap this in terms of how consciousness actually works. And when I say how consciousness works, you might think about how nature works, because nature is one of the most extraordinary, limitless examples of how consciousness works. So you think about how a forest manifests, or think about if you have a garden, how that manifests. Just kind of had that feeling while we talk. So we started with this four-part technology from the Andean traditions. In English, we call it the technology of wholeness. And I don't mean that in a subjective way. It's actually a technology of manifestation. So it starts with the principle of fertility. And in Western terms, just for business people, it means who's a good client? You ever had a bad client? Yeah, it's not fertile, right? Because you can't get anything done if you plant a seed, it doesn't germinate and sprout and things like that. A fertile client, a fertile idea is one that germinates seemingly by itself. It's got internal energy. You get an idea, you do a little bit with it, ooh, all of a sudden it's growing. That's fertility. Yeah. And so we need to really discover, and this is what we were talking about, how to recognize fertility. Because we very much, if we end up colluding with, I should do this, I'm supposed to be XYZ, we end up not seeing what will work for us and what won't work for us. We end up trying to match a should. And that's not a way to manifest anything. So,
No.
assuming we've learned a little bit, have a little feel for what's going to be fertile for something we want to create, bring into being. Those are ways of saying manifest. The next thing is we have to invest in that fertility. We have to invest in that opportunity. And I was also thinking about this because so much marketing is based in what are your clients' headaches? What are their problems? What are their pain. Oh my God. It's like already I don't want to talk about it. But I was thinking about actually what we're talking about if we want to manifest something, grow something. Um, we're looking for fertility. What's
Like opportunities, right?
opportunities? Yeah, yeah. And I thought, well, what about challenges? No, it's too much. There's too much negativity in that. Where's the opportunity? Yeah. And,
Mm.
you might find a client who's saying, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. And that's just one side of the coin. On the other side, you could find the opportunity. And so think of this as, instead of here's the headache and here's the solution and the outcome, blah, blah, blah. Think of the opportunity, and then start to map out how you invest and what you invest in that opportunity. This is today's principle. Investing in relationship, investing in opportunity for the express purpose of creating new stuff, and lots of it. And even not just one new thing and lots of it, but many new things and lots of all of that. A multiplicity of returns is how it's usually translated. Yeah. And so if I have a client and it looks like a good opportunity to help them create a new service, I will do my best to help that client, first of all, see their service in a very big context so they get a deeper meaning. So it's not just here's my service and here's my little niche and I'm just going to do this. Everything we do has a ripple effect. And if I only invest your niche, I'm probably missing a whole bunch of opportunities or resources or who knows what. So one of the things about investing in an opportunity is keep the radar screen big, even though you're focused in the middle of it. And the investment is, how do you work with your client? How do you teach your client to work with you? The investment is maybe the client's resources. Some of the investment is money. A lot of the investment is talent. The investment might be outside resources that you bring in, but think of this as an investment. And that investment is going to grow, not just the stuff you put in. So it's a little different than investing in a stock and your dollars grow. We invest resources and energy and creative awareness. And what comes out of that investment is the totally new thing that we're going to manifest. So one of the big things is this investment and opportunity for multiplicities of return. And some of that multiplicity has to in turn support you yourself. Some of it has to support the client. And again, it's more than money. Yeah, it's energy, it's new information, it's new levels of awareness, it's new connections, new people who show up to support the project that you're manifesting. So instead of manifesting, here is my, I don't really know what these words mean, strategy, tactics, A to B, here's my deadlines and the end point, and here's your blueprint. Manifestation is not a linear process. It's a multi-dimensional process. Yeah. And when we learn to be present, we've talked about this on a lot of our conversations. This capacity to be present means to be aware in all the dimensions of the moment you're in. And if you're really aware in this dimensional way, then you start to be aware of what you need in order to invest for this multiplicity of returns. You have more information, you have more clarity of the meaning of that information, more ability to focus. But to manifest, I think again of that image that I think I gave last time of being a fountain. Yeah. And when we're investing, you're investing in the pool of water. Yeah. And that investment creates energy, which sends the water up through the spigot in the center of the fountain, and you get a bigger and bigger upward, beautiful spray. Yeah. I always think of Roman fountains. Yeah. So this principle, in the Quechua language, it's Ayni, A-Y-N-I, Ayni. And it means exactly that, investment in relationship for the express purpose of creating multiplicities of return. You create something new and you amplify the new thing, and you create some more stuff to support the thing that you created and support the people that are creating it and protect the resources so you don't run out of things. It's a multi-dimensional understanding of growing something. Yeah. So I'll pause there.
Marti, yeah, thank you. There's so much, and I don't know if anyone listening picked this up. Like for me, I go to the beginning, as in how you frame this compared to typical marketing, which is how most businesses think and operate. And we're taught from the gurus, okay, find a problem and solve it for someone. Okay, that might be an initial step to creating something. But what I heard you say is you don't see it in the negative. And I think there is another way to look at it. So if we're just focusing on problems, we're actually always looking at what's wrong. And I also feel like we're looking into the past, because then that invites you to then look at, what did I do wrong? What does it oh, we're still there. And as we know, what we focus on expands. And if we keep focusing on it from that perspective, we sort of stay in a negative energy loop. And I think I'm speaking from experience here. Whereas what you're inviting us to consider is looking at that, say the same client with the same situation, but instead of looking for the problem, you ask the question, what is the opportunity?
Right. Exactly.
So there's no judgment as well, because when we look at it as a problem or what's wrong, we're judging it as well, whether we're judging the client or their customers or whatever it is. So opportunities have magic around them. And like, I love the fountain visual, because it's like what you invest in the water then comes, sprays up, and it impacts everyone around you.
Yeah, exactly. And there was another thought that came through while you were discussing all of that. The usual way, if I say, okay, I'm going to articulate my client's problem, there's a couple of other things that come with that. And one is the client doesn't know what their problem is. And it's a little insulting. Yeah. So we have to be careful. If we're working problem solution, we have to be careful to honor the client's intelligence about their own experience and help them understand they know more than they might think.
Yeah, that's a really important point.
Yeah, I think the old model of I'm your consultant and I know better how to run your business, even though I've only been here 5 minutes. I think that model is dead. I hope so, or on its way out the door. But the other thing is, if I let's say I try this out and I try to frame my work with my client as an opportunity, I also want to be careful to keep investing for something that's open-ended. Because if we're problem solution oriented, we're okay, here's the obstacle and I want to get from A to B. Here's the solution. And that again pushes us back down to a linear level of consciousness where we have very, very few choices. We're still heading for that endpoint, for the deadline, for the, and it has to match the original idea. So there's not much negotiability in that linear model of solving a problem, because I've already got the vision, and it's very hard for people on that linear path to shift gears and try new things if they've agreed on the front end, here's what we're going to do for you, and you're headed for that back end. I don't know. I think we probably have a lot of listeners who've tried to change a budget midstream, and it doesn't work very well. So the idea that what we do in serving clients is open-ended. Like you put a seed in the ground and you kind of know what's going to come out of the seed husk, but then you nurture its growth so it expresses itself to the ultimate. If you've ever grown flowers, like some summers you get the most amazing flower from the same seeds and you can't believe yourself, right? But it's open-ended. It's a blossoming, an investment for blossoming, an investment for fulfillment that doesn't have a cap on it. So this shift in it's really a shift in worldview. If my worldview is A to B, and I'm going to decide ahead of time what it's going to be like, and that's the only thing I'm going to allow to happen, that's a very flatland, linear, causality-based world, and it's just too limited. Yeah. So even when if we take a step back and we talk about looking for opportunity for this principle of fertility, if I'm too linear, I'm not going to see it. Because
if I'm just stuck in my,
yeah,
I've got this product or this service and I'm just looking for someone to deliver this to, just trying to sell and focus on the product that I've got.
Right. And so we're looking for the same thing. We're looking for matches. Here's what I've got. They have to match it. And if it doesn't match, then I'm gone. I have to move on. But when we invest in opportunity and fertility, one of the key things in the initial investments is the principle of complementarities. Let's say you're helping a team in a company create something or evolve what they do. That team needs to have in its composition people with complementary skills. If you bring two complementary things together in just the right way, you get a totally new third thing that has its own momentum to keep growing. Yeah. And this is, again, very tough concept in the Western world because people are looking for matches. I like you because you're like me. I'm going to hire that person because he likes us. And if my usual metaphor for this is if you had a universe that only had plus charges in it, you could never make a bond. You need plus and minus charges pretty much to make a bond. So if all you have is plus charges, how does anything ever, how could you ever have water, right? Yeah.
The scientist in you is coming out, Marti.
Yes, I think it's helpful. I really do. I think it's
absolutely
helpful. Yeah, to have that mix of myth and science. So this business of INI, of investing for multiplicities of return. And another aspect of this is when we speak to our clients, let's say we have a client who has agreed to work with us and we've defined the project in terms of the opportunity, and now we're going to be investing in this. The next thing we need to, I think, educate clients on is the creative process, the manifestation process. Because we can generally say ahead of time, it's probably going to go through these, 2 or 3 or 4 stages. People need a little bit of a map. But then we have to understand that map is a living thing. And with each stage of manifesting a project or a product, we learn something. And so we wanted to invest in our client relationships in a way that the client is learning with us. And they learn the kind of negotiability that's required to manifest something that's brilliant, that begins to have its own internal momentum, its own internal consciousness, if you will. And that will be a steadier, more adaptable service or product in the long run. Yeah.
I'm wondering about this from the client's perspective. And this is something that I've been thinking about recently as I'm watching people. Well, I myself have been going and looking at different providers of services and looking at these particular training things, or a couple of experts that talk about their thing. And I was contemplating how some people shop around. They shop around and actually buy into a number of people's programs or trainings. And I wonder if what they're looking for is that plus and minus, connection, the match, rather than, wow, this person's got the solution to my problem. right?
Mm.
And because a lot of providers, like we know, just sell one thing, or they
Yeah.
sell a solution, right?
Mm.
This is my
Yeah.
product. And so they might have a newsletter or an online
Mm.
training course or something like that about that. And people will shop around. They'll buy three different providers, and they're looking. And I feel like potentially
Mm.
they're looking for the match. Would you agree with that, Marty?
Yeah, if I understand what you're saying, I think that is true. Um, this is a very interesting inquiry. Um, so I'm going to step into the client shoes for the moment,
Mm,
and um, I first have to ask myself how much courage I have. I think I would
mm,
start with that. Do I have the courage? I've got an idea of something that I want to add to my business, or something that knowledge I need to bring into my business. Do I have the courage to bring that in and let it grow me and my company in ways I cannot predict? Because if it's really
mm,
conscious and really fruitful, you have to allow for the unknown. Yeah, and if it's a good
mm,
investment, if it's tiny, the investment is good, it's going to be good, it's going to be beneficial. But as a client, I have to ask myself, am I so afraid of the unknown that I want to know what it is before I take a step into it? Or um, can we help clients learn a completely different way to look at hiring services?
mm.
Yeah. Usually it's in the Western world is I'm the client, this is what I want. And I'm going to look for somebody who will say, yes, I will give you what you want.
Yeah.
And again, we're back. It's like you said, we get caught in the past. We only want the familiar, and we're not going to grow forward. And so
Mm,
part of what I do in helping entrepreneurs and professionals who've got a vision for something new is to step into the experience of the process of creation instead of staying on the surface with a picture of what I want created. Because the process itself of creation is moment to moment. So if
mm,
I'm investing, let's say I'm putting a team together, and we have an umbrella vision, but every day that investment is going to generate new understanding, new meaning, new value, new ideas. And so the overall vision we have is going to evolve as our day-to-day work evolves. And so I would look, if I'm the client, I would look for somebody who has a sense of that evolutionary process of creation. I would look for somebody who
yeah.
can invest in who I have, somebody who has complementary skills or understands the relationships in my own team, who would come in and till it like a field and plant new seeds to see what we could grow together that's new. And that's really different than saying, here's what I want. Please do this for me. Yes, I will do exactly that for you. And nothing changes.
So funny because, my old business, when I had a business partner, we had a digital marketing agency, and clients would come to us and just say, we want more leads and sales, build us websites, marketing funnels,
Hmm.
automation.
Hmm.
And I got to a point where I was so out of love with this. I was very just yeah, very detached, and I was going to saying to the clients, but it's not
Hmm.
about just building the infrastructure. What about your client? What about this?
Yeah.
No, no, no. We just want the funnel. Just build the funnel.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
it was clearly the wrong path for me and my business partner, and luckily it all changed. But
Hmm.
I guess that's what I was feeling internally, was
Right.
just not working.
Yeah.
And I want to
And
work with people that are open to the possibilities of what
e- e-
else.
exactly. And you just touched on one of the most important things. If we're manifesting something, everything in the universe, everything in life is dependent upon the principle of exchange. In order to come into being and grow, you have to be in exchange. You think about
Mm,
inside your body, there's a constant exchange of stuff from outside a cell and within a cell. There's calcium and potassium channels. There's oxygen and CO2. A tree takes our CO2 and gives us back oxygen. Everything is based on the principle of exchange. And so manifestation in the business world and people coming in to help a company, you hire somebody who's got a talent you need, it has to be, when we get to this investment part, the investment is based on exchange. So if I hire somebody to come in, they're going to do something for me, but I have to be able to give them what they need. And together in this exchange, that's a complementarity right there. I have ideas and knowledge of my business. This person has certain skills. That's complementary. Together, we're in exchange, and something beautiful and new will come out of that. As a client, I've got to be courageous enough to say yes.
Mm.
Yeah, it's bound to be something I've never seen before, and I have to be courageous enough. And eventually, I'll be comfortable enough with consciousness to trust that if I'm investing for multiplicities of return, I will get something new that has internal life force, and I need to say yes to that.
So powerful. I encourage the listeners to, I challenge you, like, watch this again, and just, and I challenge you to then take this approach to your next exchange or interaction, or when you're seeking to, improve your business in some way, or yourself, or you need someone to help you in some way. Look at it from this perspective. And for the business owner who is selling their services, think about this as well. Watch this again, and maybe watch it a few times until it kind of lands for you. There's a lot there. We are coming towards the end. What's part 3? So what can we talk about, just that bridge, so that we can let everyone know, like, what's coming in part 3 of manifestation?
Oh, part 3 is quite marvelous and a little Hogwartsian. Part 3 is about a certain energy that gets created if you get the first 2 parts right. And in part 3, the Quechua language word is Enka, and it's a word that means the energy of feeling good. It refers to a very specific amplitude and frequency of energy that we begin to emit when we are in a conscious process of creation. So if we are really finding authentic fertility and investing for Aini, we're going to be feeling really great. We're going to have more energy. We'll have more creativity. We'll have more stamina. And we'll be beaming this beautiful energy out into the world, which is quite contagious. Yeah.
I'm very excited about that one. Yeah. Well, thank you. See, the time's already gone, and we're going to head into the green room and record another little bit, which will be on the 6-star leaders in the community for those members. Marti, thank you so much, and I look forward to continuing our conversation. And we'll be here. Is it in a fortnight? I think we'll be here in a fortnight's time.
Yeah.
For part 3.
Great.
Thanks.